Someone is going to arrest this man. Don't miss it. Archangel Michael says the air around you is charged tonight, and a wave of events is rushing toward its peak. In the distance, forces have been moving in silence, preparing for something that will shatter the quiet. You have been placed here, in this moment, to witness what few would ever believe. The streets are unusually still, as if every sound has been swallowed by an invisible hand. Somewhere in the darkness, footsteps echo with precision, each one bringing the moment closer. This is not a random night, this is the culmination of months, maybe years, of secrets, betrayals, and hidden surveillance. The man at the center of this storm has no idea what's about to unfold. He walks with the same confidence he's carried for so long, unaware that the walls have been closing in on him inch by inch. He believes his charm and influence can keep him safe, but that illusion is about to shatter. For those who know the truth, the tension is almost unbearable. Every light, every shadow, every passing car feels like a signal. Somewhere, unseen eyes are locked on their target, waiting for the exact second to strike. Blessing 333. The city lights flicker faintly in the distance, casting uneven shadows along the narrow alleyways. Somewhere beyond those corners, a convoy is assembling, engines idling low, ready to move at a moment's signal. Every vehicle, every officer involved has been positioned with absolute precision. Archangel Michael says this is no ordinary capture, it carries a weight beyond legal consequence. This is about balance being restored, about an act that will ripple far beyond tonight. The man's past actions have stacked up like a tower of cards, and one single move will bring it all crashing down. In an unmarked car 2 streets away, someone whispers into a radio. Their voice is steady, but their grip on the receiver is tight. The air smells faintly of rain, though the clouds have not yet broken. A small red light glows in the dashboard, confirmation that the signal to move is approaching. The man continues down the street, his coat collar pulled high, his eyes darting left and right but not enough to suspect the truth. In his mind, the evening is still his. He has meetings, plans, maybe even celebrations to attend. Little does he know that his name is now echoing inside the earpieces of men and women surrounding him. Blessing 729. A dark SUV pulls slowly from a side road, keeping its headlights dim until the very last second. Inside, 2 plainclothes officers sit in silence, their expressions fixed, their hearts steady from years of training. One of them checks a thin folder on their lap, its edges worn from being handled too many times. Across the street, in the upper window of an abandoned building, a shadow shifts. The lens of a long-range camera glints faintly as it tracks the man's every movement. This is not just for evidence, it's for proof beyond dispute, a record that will close every loophole he thought could protect him. Archangel Michael says the truth has been circling him for too long, gathering like a silent storm. It has taken patience, strategy, and unshakable focus to reach this night. Every choice he's made, every word he's spoken has led him to this street, at this precise time, with no escape left. A faint crackle comes through the comms, and the convoy begins to move. One car approaches from the east, another from the west. The man slows briefly, sensing a shift in the air, but it's too subtle for him to name. By the time his mind catches up to his instincts, it will already be too late. Blessing 144. The man adjusts his scarf, tugging it higher against the cool night breeze, unaware that every subtle movement is being mirrored on multiple screens in a surveillance van just blocks away. Inside, the low hum of electronic equipment fills the space, punctuated by the occasional whisper of an officer confirming his location. The glow from the monitors illuminates tense faces, eyes locked onto their target. Across town, a second team is moving into position. They blend into the flow of pedestrians, but every step is calculated, every glance purposeful. Their mission tonight is clear: contain, control, and secure before the man realizes the net has closed in around him. Archangel Michael says the layers of deception that once shielded him are falling away like old paint. Every person he believed to be an ally has already chosen a side, and most of them are now waiting to watch his downfall. He has no idea that tonight, the streets themselves seem to lean toward justice, pushing events to an inevitable end. The man stops briefly at a corner store window, pretending to check his reflection but really scanning the street. It's a habit born from years of mistrust, yet tonight it won't be enough. The forces closing in are faster, smarter, and far more determined than he could ever anticipate. Blessing 516. A low murmur comes through the earpieces of the arrest team, target approaching Sector 4. Instantly, the quiet rhythm of the operation shifts. Officers tighten their circles, stepping into pre-assigned positions. Vehicles slow in unison, engines barely audible over the faint rustle of the wind. From an overhead vantage point, a camera zooms closer. The man's stride is confident but clipped, a pace that suggests urgency. He has somewhere to be, but he won't make it there. The evidence against him has already been sealed, all that's left is to bring him in. Archangel Michael says the watchers have been patient long enough. There are moments in life when the truth demands to be acted upon, and this is one of them. Every delay until now has been strategy, not hesitation. The time for observation has ended, the time for intervention has arrived. Two plainclothes officers cross the street casually, their eyes fixed on the man without being obvious. Another figure steps from a doorway just ahead of him, blocking his direct path. He slows, his brow furrowing slightly as he glances left, only to see a second figure closing in. The air grows heavy, as if the entire city is holding its breath. Blessing 842. The man's pulse begins to quicken, though he forces himself to maintain composure. Years of navigating dangerous situations have trained him to mask fear, but something about this moment feels different, more final. The hairs on the back of his neck rise, and a subtle chill creeps down his spine. The figure blocking his path takes a single step forward, the faint outline of a badge glinting in the dim streetlight. It's subtle, almost unnoticeable, but to the trained eye it's unmistakable. The man's gaze shifts sharply to his left, but the second figure has moved closer, his stance wide, solid, unyielding. Archangel Michael says the trap was never meant to be loud, it was meant to be certain. Every inch of this operation was designed to leave no gaps, no opportunities for escape. The man who once slipped through countless cracks in the system is now facing a wall from every direction. A black sedan rolls to a stop just behind him, its headlights cutting a narrow beam through the dark. The rear door opens slowly, almost silently, as if the car itself is part of the plan. Inside, a third figure waits, hands resting calmly on their lap, eyes never leaving the man's face. Blessing 264. The street seems to narrow around him. Cars in the distance sound muffled, as though the entire world has shifted into a muted state, focusing solely on this moment. Somewhere, a radio crackles softly with a single, sharp confirmation, "Execute." The first officer steps forward, producing an official document sealed in plastic. It's brief, stamped, and signed, its contents already known to the man without needing to read a word. His jaw tightens, and he takes a half step back, only to feel the presence of the officer behind him. Archangel Michael says there comes a time when running is no longer a choice. For years, the man outran his consequences, each escape feeding the illusion of invincibility. But tonight, destiny has decided otherwise, and no amount of cleverness can alter the outcome. In one fluid motion, the second officer takes his arm, not roughly, but firmly enough to signal there's no negotiation. The man glances around, perhaps searching for a familiar face, a potential ally, or even a last-minute savior. There are none. The city that once served as his playground has now turned into the stage for his undoing. Blessing 901. The man's breathing steadies, but his eyes betray the storm building inside him. His gaze darts to the open sedan door, then back to the officers flanking him. Somewhere in his mind, a calculation begins, possible moves, possible lies, possible chances, but each path he imagines ends in the same dead end. The officer holding the official document steps closer, lifting it just enough for the streetlight to catch the seal. The faint sound of a camera shutter clicks from somewhere unseen, documenting the exchange for evidence. Every movement, every angle, is being recorded, leaving no room for dispute later. Archangel Michael says the ground beneath him feels different now, not the steady pavement he's walked for years, but something shifting, tilting against him. It's as if the very earth has decided to no longer carry him forward. The illusion of control slips from his hands, replaced by a creeping inevitability. A second vehicle slows at the far end of the street, lights dimmed, engine humming low. From inside, two more plainclothes officers emerge, their steps silent but direct. The man realizes the circle has not just closed, it has sealed completely, like a door locking from every side. Blessing 475. The air feels denser now, pressing against his chest. The familiar street around him has transformed into an arena, every passerby unknowingly serving as a witness. Somewhere above, the soft whir of a drone camera drifts overhead, ensuring nothing is missed from the sky. One of the officers steps forward with a pair of handcuffs, holding them low and out of sight to avoid drawing unnecessary attention. The man's jaw tightens again, he straightens his posture, clinging to dignity even as control slips further from his reach. His silence is deliberate, he knows that anything he says could be turned against him. Archangel Michael says this moment is not just the result of law, but of destiny aligning. Threads woven over months, even years, have pulled tight around him, each one held by a different hand he never saw coming. In this exact minute, all of those hands have pulled together. The first officer speaks softly, his tone calm but final. Words are exchanged, formal, precise, heavy with authority. A faint rustle of movement comes from behind as the second officer readies to assist, their stance steady and immovable. Blessing 622. The man's shoulders tense as the first cold touch of metal grazes his wrist. He exhales slowly, as if trying to release the weight of the moment, but the sound comes out heavier than he intended. The cuffs click once, twice, finality settling into place with each metallic note. A brief flash from across the street signals that another camera has captured the moment. In the shadows, an observer lowers the device, satisfied that the evidence is now undeniable. Every angle is covered, there will be no arguments, no accusations of falsehood. Archangel Michael says the night has now claimed him. This is the turning point where pride is replaced by reality, and the steps he takes from here are no longer his own. The road ahead is mapped out by others, and all he can do is follow. One officer gently guides him toward the waiting sedan, the other walking a half step behind, eyes scanning the perimeter. They move in a slow, deliberate pace, calm enough to avoid attention, firm enough to show control. The city noise begins to seep back in, but to the man, it sounds muted, distant, irrelevant. Blessing 378. The open door of the sedan looms closer, its interior dimly lit, a faint scent of leather and dust drifting out. He hesitates just a fraction of a second before lowering himself into the back seat. The door shuts with a deep, echoing thud that feels more like a seal than a closure. Outside, the team exchanges quick, efficient words. The convoy begins to shift, engines starting in unison, the hum of movement replacing the earlier stillness. From above, the drone camera glides backward, tracking the vehicles as they merge into the narrow road. Archangel Michael says this is more than the end of a chase, it's the closing of a chapter that began long before tonight. What started as whispers and shadows has now solidified into hard, unshakable truth. For the man in the back of the sedan, every passing streetlight feels like a mile marker on the way to an unavoidable fate. In the side mirror, the street fades into the distance, leaving behind the place where his freedom ended. Ahead, only the dark stretch of road remains, guiding them toward the destination that will decide everything. The air inside the car is still, almost heavy, as if carrying the weight of years condensed into this single night. Blessing 991. The sedan moves forward with steady precision, its tires humming softly against the asphalt. Streetlights glide past in rhythmic intervals, casting fleeting shadows across the man's face. He stares out the window, though his eyes aren't focused on anything outside, his mind is racing elsewhere, replaying decisions that led him here. In the front seat, the driver maintains a calm, unreadable expression. Every so often, a faint voice comes through the radio, confirming routes and timing. The words are clipped, almost coded, revealing just enough for those who are part of the plan. Archangel Michael says this ride is not just a transfer, it is a transition between two realities. Behind him lies the illusion of untouchable freedom, ahead of him, the cold certainty of consequences. No amount of charm, influence, or denial can reverse the direction of this car. A black SUV falls into formation behind them, followed by another unmarked sedan. To an outsider, it might look like ordinary traffic, but every vehicle in this silent convoy has a purpose. Each driver, each passenger knows exactly what role they're playing in this final act. Blessing 447. The city around them feels quieter than usual, as though it, too, knows what's unfolding. Even the traffic lights seem to change in perfect sync, offering no delays, no interruptions. The convoy moves like water through an open channel, unobstructed and deliberate. Inside the car, the man's hands rest loosely in his lap, the steel cuffs catching faint reflections from the dashboard lights. He flexes his fingers slowly, perhaps testing the reality of their weight. Each movement reminds him that control has slipped entirely from his grasp. Archangel Michael says there are moments in life when the truth arrives uninvited, demanding to be faced. This is such a moment, one that cannot be bargained with or postponed. The man's silence now is not a choice but a necessity, as every word will be measured against him. The driver takes a slow right turn, guiding the vehicle into a dimly lit road lined with warehouses. The air here feels different, colder, heavier, and laced with the faint scent of metal and oil. This path leads away from the familiar streets he once navigated so easily, into a part of the city where endings are sealed. Blessing 802. The sedan glides deeper into the industrial stretch, the hum of its engine echoing faintly against corrugated metal walls. Dim security lights flicker overhead, casting fleeting shapes across the cracked pavement. The convoy maintains its silent rhythm, every driver aware that the final destination is now only minutes away. The man shifts in his seat, leaning back as if to appear calm, but the subtle tension in his jaw tells another story. He scans each passing building, perhaps searching for a landmark, perhaps hoping for some unexpected intervention. None comes, only the steady forward motion of the vehicles around him. Archangel Michael says the ground they travel on tonight is heavy with the weight of unfinished truths. These streets have seen secrets traded in whispers and power exchanged in shadows, and now they witness a reckoning. The same walls that once hid his dealings will now stand as silent witnesses to his surrender. The driver slows as the lead SUV turns into a gated compound. A guard at the entrance steps forward, clipboard in hand, scanning the arriving vehicles before nodding sharply. The gates swing open with deliberate slowness, their metallic creak slicing through the night air. Blessing 219. Inside the compound, the lighting is sparse but intentional. Pools of white light fall on designated spots, leaving much of the ground in shadow. Every illuminated space is calculated, there are no accidents here. The sedan stops in one of these lit circles, the sound of the engine cutting into silence. The rear door opens, and the first officer gestures for the man to step out. He hesitates briefly, looking at the empty space beyond as if weighing the distance between himself and whatever comes next. Then, with measured steps, he rises from the seat, the faint clink of the cuffs marking each movement. Archangel Michael says this moment is not simply about law, it is about the closing of cycles. The threads of his past, the choices he made without thought for their cost, have been gathered and tied into a single knot. And now, here, that knot will be cut. Two additional officers emerge from the shadows, their presence quiet but commanding. They flank him instantly, forming a human corridor that guides him toward a plain, windowless building at the far end of the lot. The air smells faintly of rain, though the sky above remains dry and still. Blessing 653. The officers guide him forward, their steps in perfect sync, boots striking the pavement with a steady, deliberate rhythm. The sound echoes faintly off the steel walls surrounding the compound, each step pulling him deeper into a place where the outside world no longer exists. The man keeps his chin lifted, but his eyes shift restlessly, cataloging every detail as though committing the scene to memory. The entrance to the building is framed by a reinforced steel door, its surface worn from years of use. A small keypad blinks red beside it until one officer enters a sequence of digits. With a muted beep, the lock disengages, and the door swings inward to reveal a sterile corridor lit by cold fluorescent lights. Archangel Michael says this hallway is more than just a path inside, it is the threshold between the life he has known and the one awaiting him. Here, there is no stage, no audience to manipulate, no shadows to hide within. The truth has stripped away his armor, leaving only the man and his actions. Inside, the air is cooler, sharper, carrying the faint scent of disinfectant. The walls are lined with doors, each marked by numbers rather than names, as if individuality is left outside along with the night air. The officers lead him past the first few, their pace unbroken, their silence unshaken. Blessing 511. They stop at a heavy door halfway down the hall. One officer produces a key card and swipes it through a slot, prompting a soft mechanical click. The door opens into a stark room with a metal table at its center and two chairs facing one another. A camera in the upper corner pivots slightly to follow their entry. The man is seated, his hands still bound, though the cuffs are adjusted for comfort. Across the table, a plain folder awaits, its edges crisp, its contents sealed beneath a paper clasp. An officer takes the seat opposite him, placing a pen neatly beside the file without saying a word. Archangel Michael says this room holds no secrets, only confirmations. Everything that is about to be discussed has already been proven, every page in that folder a brick in the wall that surrounds him. All that remains now is the formal unfolding of the truth he has spent so long avoiding. From the hallway, the muffled sound of footsteps approaches. The door opens again, and a new figure steps in, calm, composed, carrying an air of authority that demands attention without raising a voice. The man's eyes narrow, recognition flickering in them for the first time tonight. Blessing 887. The newcomer closes the door softly behind them, the faint click echoing in the stillness of the room. Their gaze locks on the man immediately, steady, unblinking, and laced with something colder than mere duty. They pull out the remaining chair, sitting down with a deliberate slowness that forces the silence to stretch. The man leans back slightly, his cuffed hands shifting on the table. For a moment, his usual mask of control threatens to return, but the weight of the situation keeps it from fully settling on his face. His eyes flick toward the folder, then back to the person across from him, as though measuring how much they already know. Archangel Michael says this is the confrontation he has avoided for longer than he can admit. Every hidden document, every whispered deal, every careful cover-up, someone has followed the trail without his knowledge. And now, the one holding the last piece of the puzzle sits only inches away. The folder is opened slowly, revealing neat stacks of paper and photographs. The first image is slid across the table, its contents sharp enough to make the man's jaw tighten. He doesn't speak, but the twitch at the corner of his mouth is answer enough. Blessing 774. The officer nearest the door shifts slightly, adjusting their stance, ready for any sudden movement. Outside, faint voices murmur in the corridor, but in this room, the air feels heavy, dense, charged with an unspoken current. The person across from him flips another page, laying down a second photograph, this one from a different time, a different place, but tied to the same thread. The man's eyes follow it involuntarily before he catches himself, forcing his gaze back up. It's too late, the reaction has been noted. Archangel Michael says every fortress has a weak point, and tonight his has been found. These images are more than just records, they are keys that unlock doors he thought were sealed forever. Each one is a link in the chain drawing tighter around him. A pen is pushed across the table, the motion deliberate, slow, almost ceremonial. It comes to rest just in front of him, beside a page that has been marked for signing. The man doesn't reach for it, yet, but the weight of its presence is impossible to ignore. Blessing 302. The man stares at the pen as if it were more dangerous than the cuffs binding his wrists. His breathing slows, each inhale deliberate, as though buying himself fragments of time. The fluorescent light above hums softly, casting a sharp reflection of the pen's metallic clip across the table's surface. The figure opposite him leans forward slightly, folding their hands. No threats are spoken, no promises made, just the silent weight of inevitability pressing in from every side. Outside the door, a faint sound of movement passes, then fades again into stillness. Archangel Michael says moments like this are battles fought without raised voices. Every decision is a war between pride and survival, between holding onto a crumbling wall or stepping into the unknown beyond it. The man feels both choices burning in his chest. The officer at the door glances at their watch, then gives the slightest nod to the seated figure. The folder is rotated toward the man, the marked page now directly in front of him. His eyes skim the lines, lingering briefly on a date, a name, a place, each one a reminder of the web that has finally closed. Blessing 688. He exhales slowly, the sound heavy in the quiet room. His fingers flex against the cold steel of the cuffs, and for a moment, it seems he might refuse. But then, with a small, resigned movement, he reaches forward, taking the pen between his bound hands. The nib hovers above the page, pausing just long enough to suggest a final surge of defiance. Yet the silence stretches, and the tension in his shoulders finally releases in a slow, downward motion. The ink touches paper, and the first line of his name begins to take shape. Archangel Michael says with this stroke, the circle is complete. The pursuit, the planning, the gathering of every detail, it has all led here, to the moment where truth is no longer a shadow but a signature. There is no going back from what has been set in motion. The pen is placed down with deliberate care, as though he hopes that slowing the act will somehow lessen its meaning. But the page remains before him, the signature clear and binding. The figure across from him gathers the folder calmly, closing it with a quiet finality. Blessing 940.